She called me a practice husband to her ex, while I slept next to her. That is the first sentence my brain screamed when I opened the chat thread and saw my wife rating my body like a Yelp review. Me, male, 38 years old. Wife, female, 37 years old. We have been together 6 years, married a year and change. I used to be a marathon guy, the type who meal prepped quinoa and set 2 alarms for sunrise runs. Then life took me out at the knees. A startup imploded, my father died after a short illness, I stopped sleeping, started eating, and the miles turned into a gut I joked was a sympathy pillow. The joke did not land when I realized my wife was sharing photos of me. Not sexy photos, not even goofy photos. Sleeping, mouth half open, shirt bunched up, captioned for her ex-husband like a cruel meme. "Dad bod deluxe," she typed once. "He snores like a lawnmower." On my screen, it scrolled like a slideshow of humiliation. This is about the night I made her favorite dinner, kissed her forehead, and left before the coffee cooled. This is about the last thing I texted. Send anything through my lawyer. And this is about how the ending felt nothing like victory and everything like relief with a side of rage I still taste when I brush my teeth. I did not spy. We shared a home laptop for years, and she left her messages open. I clicked to close, and the first line I saw was my name shortened to something she never uses, like a nickname people save for group chats where they do not want to type the full syllables of the person they are shredding. Then there were images. One of me on the couch with my hand in a bag of kettle chips, the caption, "Training for the household hippo games." Another of my belly peeking above pajama shorts because I had fallen asleep watching a documentary, captioned, "He calls this his emergency reserve." Her ex replied with laughing faces and inside jokes from their old marriage, like I was just a prop in their reunion episode. They were not talking about getting back together, no talk of hotels or secrets, but they said they missed the rhythm and those mornings in the old kitchen. She wrote, "He's kind, but so soft." It is bizarre what words injure the deepest. Soft. The kind part landed like a consolation prize, a ribbon you get for participating in a fair where the real winners are the people making fun of you at the lemonade stand. I sat there with my tongue glued to the roof of my mouth. She came home jangling keys and carrying a rotisserie chicken, all warm rosemary and grocery store heat lamps. She kissed my cheek. "I brought your favorite." Then she asked if I wanted a night drive like we used to. Coffee, the highway dark as licorice. Every word from her felt like looking at a mirror you suddenly realize is a two-way window. Is secrecy the same as betrayal in marriage? Her phone buzzed on the counter. I looked at the chicken and wanted to throw it out the window. Instead, I said, "Sure, let's go after dinner," and tasted, under the rosemary, a thin, metallic fear. In bed, she curled against me like always. My wife is beautiful in the casual way of people who forget they have cheekbones and correct posture. She strokes my chest when she cannot sleep. She mumbles questions to herself and then answers them. Lately, she has been more affectionate, more present. Takeout from my favorite taco spot, little hand squeezes during movies, folded laundry on my chair. All the support felt like a weighted blanket soaked in gasoline. That night, I slipped into the living room while she showered and opened the laptop again. The chat was still there. He had sent a string of nostalgia. "Remember how you burned pancakes on Sundays?" And she wrote back, "I could smell them. I miss the burn." She attached a photo from that morning. Me leaning over the sink brushing my teeth in a t-shirt I should have retired, the angle catching my side. The ex responded with, "Tell him the gym exists." My wife, "He'll get there. Meanwhile, he has earnest enthusiasm." I read that sentence 3 times because I love words and I hate when they are used as stiletto knives. I closed the laptop, set it down gently like it might explode, and reheated the coffee I had poured earlier. It tasted bitter and sweet, like a spiteful candy. When she came out in a robe, she kissed the top of my head. "You good?" she asked. I said, "Yeah, just work stuff." She nodded. "Do you think trust can be fully rebuilt?" I asked, pretending to be philosophical. TV playing low, steam rising from her mug. She laughed softly, like the question lived in a magazine quiz. "Of course, if people want it," she said, and reached for my hand. "And if they stop hiding," I said, because I am petty in whispers. She did not flinch. She just squeezed. I know a man named Pete. He is a 42-year-old former coworker who tells jokes like he is paid by the syllable. Bright grin, always first with the donut box on Fridays. 2 years ago, he discovered his wife had a private photo album on her cloud labeled Before. It was full of candid shots of him, slouched in sweatpants with captions she had sent to her college ex who lived a dozen states away. Like, "Remember when we were hot and interesting?" He told me about it once on a smoke break, even though neither of us smoke. We were just standing in the rain, watching traffic. He said his wife never explicitly cheated, never even asked for a meetup. It was like she was trying to keep her past alive by offering his present as a sacrifice. Pete said something that lodged in me. Some people need an audience to feel real. He took his kids and left. He did not yell. He did not set anything on fire. He just filed. Now he lives in a condo with a balcony full of basil and regret. He dates a woman who laughs with her whole face. He says he still wakes up sometimes certain he hears camera shutters in the dark. He didn't cheat. He built a double life. Pete told me that, and I did not get it until I saw my wife's chat thread. "Do you think gaslighting counts as emotional abuse? Because when she noticed me pull away, she turned up the care like a dimmer switch. She told me she loved me a dozen times between dinner and bed. She asked if I was blue, if I wanted to take a mental health day, if I would like to drive to the coast this weekend. She baked banana bread that made the house smell like childhood. And then, that night, she sent a photo of the loaf to her ex with the caption, 'He devoured half in one sitting, bad boy.' I know because I checked again, the laptop a mouthful of poison I kept sipping. I started running at night, just to move, just to have an excuse for the air to scrape my throat. She bought me a reflective vest. She told me I was her sunrise. It was sweet. It was calculus. It made me poorer inside. Midpoint. The ex messaged me. Not directly, he messaged our shared email, the one we gave contractors and dog walkers. Subject line, out of courtesy. He wrote that he wanted to clear the air, that nothing inappropriate happened, that he respects marriage, and that he was concerned because my wife had told him I was struggling with weight and mood. He signed his name like a CEO. I stared at that email until the screen dimmed and then brightened again on its own. My mouth tasted like old pennies. It turned out my wife had told him I was spiraling, that she was worried I would hurt myself if she confronted me about my decline. She had cast herself as the patient saint with the faltering partner. He wrote, "I advised her to stick by you and encourage you to get help." A kind sentence, if the premise were not built out of cardboard lies. I heard a muffled thump, the washing machine shifting, and then the house returned to that suburban silence, punctured only by a neighbor's dog and a distant garbage truck. I replied, "Do not contact me again." Then, a minute later, I wrote, "If you have archived photos of me, delete them." I did not send the second one. I deleted it. I stood at the sink and let cold water run until my fingers hurt, because sometimes pain reminds you of the borders of your body. When she came home that evening, she brought peonies and Chinese takeout. She set the table, put on a playlist with old indie songs, and kissed the back of my neck while I opened the cartons. Sesame oil and ginger rose like a spell from the bag. My appetite evaporated. "You okay?" she asked, pouring seltzer that fizzed like gossip. "Would you rather live with lies or face the truth?" I asked. She froze, chopsticks in hand. "What is this?" she said. "A real question," I replied. She placed her chopsticks down, lined them up like she could control the conversation with symmetry. "I would always choose truth," she said. "Same," I told her, and chewed rice that tasted like paper. The plan formed like frost at the edge of a window, quiet at first, then intricate. I called my sister Lena and told her everything. She lives 2 cities away, with a husband who builds furniture and a daughter who draws princesses with swords. Lena swore. Then she said, "Come here," with a tightness I have heard from her only twice, when Dad got sick and when her landlord tried to keep her deposit. She had a spare room. I applied for jobs within walking distance of her house, because gas prices are an insult to grieving people. I booked a session with a lawyer a friend recommended. I bought a second phone plan so I could handle logistics without seeing her name light up my home screen every 15 minutes. A week later, I took my wife to a new Italian place that smells like butter and wood smoke. I watched her laugh over a bowl of gnocchi, bright as a coin flipping in sunlight. In other circumstances, I would have been content forever at that table. In these circumstances, the basil felt like a funeral flower. At home, I lit 3 candles and put on the album we played the night we got engaged. I could see through my own performance, and still I did it, because the opposite of love is not always hate, sometimes it is strategy. We made love, yes, I am going to call it that, despite what I knew, because there are memories your body clings to, even when your brain is already packing boxes. Then, in the morning, I left a manila envelope next to the coffee maker with my lawyer's card, stepped into the cool corridor with a duffel, and drove to my sister's. He did not leave, he escaped. That is another line Pete told me. He was right. In the car, my phone rattled against the cup holder with messages. "Where are you? What is this? What is happening?" I did not respond. I focused on the white lines, the way they clicked under my tires like a metronome. At a rest stop, I bought a bitter coffee and watched a family split a breakfast sandwich. Father carving it in 2 with a plastic knife, the kid crying because he wanted the bigger half. I cried in my car, quietly, where a trucker across the lot could not see. At Lena's, I told everything. I showed her the photos my wife had sent, the captions, the email from the ex. My sister is not a violent person. That afternoon, she became one in theory. "I want to egg their houses," she said, pacing between the kitchen island and the fridge covered in kid art. My brother-in-law, Mark, shook his head. "No eggs," he said. He listened, eyes dark, then told me we would assemble a checklist. Bank accounts, passwords, lease, health insurance, car title. He sharpened pencils like we were going to war. He made chili that tasted like endurance, cumin, tomatoes, slow-cooked beef, and we ate it standing at the counter because sitting felt too intimate for the strategy we were constructing. My wife called my parents, who told her to send everything through the lawyer. She sent me a long email about love and stress and her fear for my mental health. She wrote that she had only vented, that she never meant harm. She said she had tried to keep things light with an old friend, that she now saw it was a mistake. She did not mention the photos at all. She did not mention the captions. "Do you think divorce is sometimes the bravest choice?" Lena asked me from the couch where she was pretending to sort old magazines. The question landed in the room like a coin in a jar. "Yes," I said, and I was surprised to hear my voice steady. 2 days later, the ex emailed again. "I will respect your boundaries," he wrote. "I wish you both healing." I clicked his name and saw his profile picture. A man holding a dog in a park, sunlit, innocent. I wanted to forward it to Pete with the subject line, "Have you ever met a man who maps his redemption with emails?" I did not. I closed the laptop. My sister handed me a slice of toast with too much butter and said, "Eat, then pack." Her daughter drew me a picture of a stick figure with a cape. "It is you," she said. "You are captain together." I almost laughed. He didn't lose me. I outgrew him. That is the second punchline I carved in my head on the drive back to my apartment to grab the last box. The confrontation was small and clean, like an incision. She caught me outside the building on a sunny Tuesday that smelled like fresh-cut grass and car exhaust. "We need to talk," she said. She had on the sweater I bought her the winter we drove through a snowstorm and stayed in a motel with floral bedspreads. "Do we?" I asked, because I am not as brave as I want to be. "Please," she said, and her voice cracked the way it does when she is truly scared, not performatively sorry. In my mind, I had written a speech about privacy and cruelty and how words turn into knives when shared with the wrong person. In reality, I said, "You took pictures of me without my consent." She swallowed. "They were not—" "Stop," I said. "You called me soft." She blinked. "You are kind," she replied automatically, like she forgot the second sentence she had paired with it. "You told him I was spiraling," I said. "You told him you were worried for my safety so he would advise you to be the hero." She shook her head. "I never," I said. Every comma. We were both breathing too fast. A bus exhaled at the corner. Someone up the block dropped a bag of recycling with a crash. She reached for my arm and then stopped herself. "I was scared," she said. "Of what?" I asked. "Of being boring," she said, and then she cried, sudden and messy, the kind of crying that would have once sent me sprinting to hold her. I did not move. She said she had felt invisible since we married, that watching me retreat into food and quiet made her panic, that she wanted a witness who remembered me from before. It would have been almost sympathetic without the part about my trusting body. "I did not cheat," she whispered. "You did not have to," I said, and watched the words land. "I cannot be your alibi for a life you miss." She asked if we could try counseling. I told her no. She asked if we could take a break instead of divorcing. I told her no. She said she loved me. I believed that she loved something. Maybe the way I used to lace up before dawn. Maybe the way I sing under my breath when I chop onions. Maybe the softness itself. I did not believe she loved me in rooms I did not enter. The last thing I did before I left town was run the loop near our old place at sunrise. Damp grass brushed my ankles. The air smelled like cold bread. I saw a guy in a red hoodie sprint past, and I wanted to chase him. Then I did not. I sat on a bench, and a woman walked by with a golden retriever who nosed my hand, determined to comfort a stranger. I laughed, just a huff. In my pocket, my phone buzzed with a message from Pete, a photo of a basil plant the size of a small tree, with the caption, "Proof things grow again." I texted back a picture of Lena's kid's drawing, the little caped stick figure. "Team together," I wrote. He sent a thumbs up. I kept expecting to feel like a villain. I kept waiting for a wave of guilt to knock me flat. Instead, my emotions came like the tide on a weird day, in sideways surges. In the afternoon, I would be fine. At midnight, I would be inventorying every kind thing she had done for me last winter. At breakfast, I would be so angry I would ruin toast by gripping it too hard. Is moving on the only real revenge? I do not know if revenge is the right word. The new job is smaller than my last. The commute is a walk past a bakery that makes croissants so buttery you can smell them from the corner. I bought better running shoes. I picked up my guitar again. In the quiet of Lena's guest room, I sleep without fear of camera shutters. Sometimes I wake up with my heart firing like an engine that has stalled, and I press my fingers to my wrist and count. I count to 10. Then I get up. Then I make coffee, and it tastes like itself, not like relief or sorrow or strategy. My wife texted me a week later, "I am sorry. You did not deserve that." There is a world where that text is the first step to something. In this world, it is a final period. I did not reply. I forwarded it to my lawyer to file alongside the paperwork, and then I deleted it from my phone. I do not keep trophies. When I finally told Mom the whole truth, she put down her tea and said, "Respect is the first food in a marriage. Without it, people starve and steal." I asked if she hated my wife now. She shook her head. "I do not hate people who do starving things. I just do not feed them anymore." I laughed, because my mother says wisdom like she is reading a grocery list, and because it gave me permission, not to be cruel, but to be done. That weekend, Lena took me to a farmer's market. I bought peaches that smelled like summer and a loaf of sourdough that still crackled when the vendor put it in the bag. We stood under a blue tent and watched a busker who played fast car like he meant it. I thought about my old apartment, the echo in the hallway, the way the light used to bounce off the framed photos we hung after the wedding. I thought about the captions under the unframed ones she sent to her past. I thought about that early question that sounded like a game but cut like a blade. Would you rather live with lies or face the truth? Here is my answer, spoken softly so it fits inside my new life. Truth, even when it drags you out into the morning barefoot and unshowered and crying on a bench. When I got home, I put the peaches on the counter and washed the basil plant Mark gave me. I opened the window, and the street smelled like rain, even though the sky was still that relentless August blue. I am not healed. I am not destroyed. I am a man who set down his fork and picked up his keys. That was the moment I knew. Her love was a mask.